Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. I'm Gemma Gadet. You're listening to Idaho Matters from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. Everybody has a story to share, and each year, writers from all over the state gather around a fire to do just that. For 11 years now, Campfire Stories has been featuring unique voices from Idaho's literary community, and this weekend is no different. Their September event is titled Latinos in America. So joining us now to talk more about the event are Christian Wynn, the founder and producer of the Campfire Stories series, Tomas Baiza, the host of this month's event, as well as writers Maylene Cavazos and Eric Amador. I want to welcome all of you to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And Christian, let me start with you. Can we start off by you describing to us and telling us a little bit about how Campfire Stories got started? What inspired the series?
Well, for sure. Thanks for having us on, and this is great. It was in like 2014, probably just a little before 2014. Actually, I was the director and co-founder of Storyboard until a couple years ago. I handed the reins over, and the Modern was involved in elements of that. And I knew some folks over there, and they wanted to put on a kind of a literary series of sorts. And so we just kind of collaborated and brainstormed what would work best. And they have a great patio setup. So it started, about 11 years ago, like you said. And so we just started, I started curating it basically by getting some great local talent and some regional talent as far as poets and fiction writers and memoirists and podcasters. And so we just kind of set it up all that time ago now. And we had a few little, bumps along the way with COVID, with the Modern not really staying open during that time for service. And so we moved it over to their place, Chikateo. Actually, that was pre-COVID. Then we moved it out to the Idaho Botanical Gardens under the title of Bloom for a couple years during kind of the height of social distancing. So that worked better for us out there. But now we're back at the Modern. So it's been awesome.
And Tomas, as I said, you'll be hosting this weekend's event. Can you talk to us a little bit about what people can expect?
Yeah, I was really happy that Campfire Stories series this year returned to themed events. And it just so happens that I was assigned July and September. And so I thought, oh, what the heck, let's do some bookending here. So July was what does it mean to be American? And the theme going into this one seemed obvious to me because it was just a day before the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. So why don't we focus on Latinos in America? And so I'm really excited, as I always am, to present with other Latino artists, mostly because I know that they're going to surprise me. And if they're going to surprise me, they're going to surprise the audience too. I think we have this idea of what kind of art Latinos create. And every single time I myself and others that I know have decided that we knew enough to be able to say Latino art or Latino writing is this, someone's going to come along and blow that apart. So I'm just excited for the audience this Sunday to be surprised by what they hear.
And Maylene, I understand you'll be sharing a true story about radical belonging. Tell us what inspired this piece.
Yeah, I have been following a modern day philosopher and a person who's changing the story about trans and racial identity, Alok Vandeman, who is actually coming to Boise September 11th at the Knitting Factory. And they talk a lot about self-love and its opposite of self-hatred. And so I've been thinking about that a lot in my own life and also reading James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, who also talks about self-love and sort of its connection to the racial problem we have in the United States. And so while exploring that, I recognize this story that happened to me, I guess that I was a part of and now wrote about, that gave the feeling of what self-love is and its opposite. And so I'm excited to share that. I don't have the philosophy down, but it's the closest I could get to understanding what they're talking about. So it's it's an exploration for me too.
So, Eric, talk to us about the piece you'll be sharing this weekend.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that I try to focus on in my fiction is really kind of just the exploration of, how I grew up, which was, kind of around first generation Mexican American. I mean, my mom was first generation, but my dad, he kind of migrated over, and so I never really know what to call myself in that situation. But really that exploration of, um, all the things that we have to deal with, being Mexican American, and just in general, just being like, Latinos and, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the culture, a lot of the tradition that comes from that. And then you're kind of, trying to fit this in this new place, and trying to grapple with that. And I've always really taken inspiration from a lot of different people who have been in my who've been in this position before, like for example like Gloria Anzaldúa, who is just an amazing writer and poet, and really mixes a lot the English language with the Spanish language, in just such a unique and creative way. And so you'll see, a little bit of that in my writing. And also, I'm a big horror fan. I love the horror movies, and so I try to mess around or kind of look to inspiration with, horror and the supernatural, and especially, my family, being Mexican American, we were very like some of us were very superstitious, and so with a lot of that we come with a lot of these stories, these legends of like La Llorona, La Lechuza, and then also like all these other stories. And so kind of really trying to put that into context of, growing up with these stories and also being Mexican American. So I try to touch base on a little bit of that, and also just how I grew up in rural Idaho.
Christian, it's interesting that this theme this month is fitting in regards to where we are right now in our country. When you were looking at choosing themes, were you thinking about that, or is this kind of I mean, I don't know if it's a happy accident, but it's definitely a necessary conversation to be having.
Yeah, we very much. I sat down with Tomas and the folks over at the Modern, Eric over there, and a couple of other hosts, our friends Rebecca Evans and Allison Meyer, who are helping put on the series this year. We just kind of brainstormed, and it was earlier this year, and we know, or I guess I had a pretty good idea of what was coming down the pike in some capacity. I think it's gotten worse than I even expected. But and as I'm a white guy in Idaho, I don't feel as directly threatened. But it's, I guess I'm an ally and someone who wants to support these things. And I've worked with Tomas a lot. I loved his writing, and then we just were like, let's do this. And Tomas can probably speak to that a little more than I can, when he kind of curated last month's or July's month of what it means to be an American now, and then now with the Latinos in America. It's like, yeah, I mean, I defer to people like Tomas to kind of help me understand
And
this situation. So,
and Tomas, I have less than a minute, so if you can, if because I've got to hit my break, but if you, I would love to hear your thoughts on that quickly.
Um, I wanted to make sure that the two events that I was curating had the opportunity to make people think. It's a really nice thing to go and listen to a reading and be touched by it, but it's less common that you're touched by readings that are so topical. And so in July, what does it mean to be American? I think spoke directly to people's concerns about what America is right now. And several months ago, we knew that the things happening to the Latino community in the United States were going to be coming down the pike. And I want for people to leave this program feeling appreciation for Latino artists.
And Campfire Stories will be this Sunday in Boise. And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.